Today we have Andrew Johnson. He was born in 1964 near Skipton, North Yorkshire in the UK. He received a degree from Lancaster University in computer science in 1986 with a minor in physics. He worked as a software engineer, and he worked on real-time process control and telecommunications for about 6 years. Then he decided he wanted to get into the teaching world, and he spent 2 years as a lecturer on BTEC National and Higher Education National Diploma courses at West Notts College in the UK. Then he moved back to working, and he started in the field of mobile data. He now assesses disabled students for access to assistive technology for higher education. In 2004, he became active in campaigning for 9/11, and that's what brings us here. Hello, Andrew.
Hello, Mike. Thanks for inviting me on.
Oh, no problem, no problem. It's nice to have somebody that knows their stuff, eh?
Well, I hope I try.
Well, yeah, hey, it's a bit more than the other guys, at least, eh?
Hopefully.
So today we're going to kind of focus on kind of more of the cover-up, kind of your specialties of this. I know you've been documenting this through various YouTube things that I've downloaded and other things too that you see, your articles and stuff. First of all, I was wondering if we could start just a brief introduction. Let's not get too much into this, but controlled demolition versus what is seen at the World Trade Center complex. So if you just wanted to say a few words about that, like I said, we won't get too much in depth because we could go on for years. So yeah, take it away.
Sure, yeah. I mean, that's one of the main things that I was caught up in originally, was this idea that someone put either bombs or, controlled demolition charges into the towers, and you rig them up to explode in sequence. And, you get these classic sequences that are shown with these there's 2 or 3 firefighters in the firehouse saying, oh, yeah, these things popping out floor by floor. And, and I think a lot of people have seen these, and some people still think that means bombs were used. But as Dr. Judy Wood has pointed out very, conclusively really in her research, that if we had any method which essentially, as perhaps she would put it, cut the building into chunks, then those chunks would fall to the ground and they would create a seismic signature, and they would damage things on the ground or near the ground, such as the bathtub and the mall stores, for example. And these all survived the destruction of the towers pretty much, basically intact. Obviously, there was some damage, but not commensurate with the size of the buildings. And for example, there's a video or a documentary that people can watch called The Miracle of Stairwell B, which I believe was made for UK television. And 14 people, including a number of firefighters, survived in Stairwell B, which was, I think, 4 or 5 floors up in the base of one of the towers, I think the North Tower. And these guys survived. They essentially walked out pretty much, maybe with a couple of broken bones, a few fractures and so forth. But basically, okay, they could get out under their own steam. So when you start to look at the evidence in Dr. Wood's book, in the videos that she's done, and 1 or 2 that I've kind of done as well, you can clearly see that this essentially amounts to another cover story, really, for what really happened to the World Trade Center and what happened on 9/11. So that's really, I suppose, when I realised that Dr. Wood was correct, and that happened for me probably late in 2006, early 2007. I knew that what she said was right, and I began to do further investigation, and I realised that there was an ongoing cover-up, which I at that time in 2006 had inadvertently become a part of, having initially not realised that I had been, sort of tricked, if you will, into being part of the cover-up of what actually happened.
Wow. So again, too, the people can just go and they could download these pictures from government archives from the Library of Congress and just look at the smoking gun. For me, is the picture where it shows the empty part where I think WTC 1 or 2 used to be, and there's just nothing, and then you see WTC 7 standing in the back. So we know that is before 5:20 p.m. in the afternoon. And like I said, anybody can go and see this information. You guys, Dr. Wood, Dr. Morgan, Reynolds, aren't really much like the Richard Gages and the Architects Engineers, because you're actually saying, hey, look at this stuff. Here's the links for it. Here's the data. Whereas I get the feeling from the Architects and Engineers side of things, it's just like, all right, well, we did all these reports, we'll go into that later. But the amount of data that Dr. Wood has given, it dwarfs anything that any of the other quote-unquote organizations have done. So again, lack of debris, that's another smoking gun, and lack of sound, as you saw that I was talking about. I had the privilege to be at a controlled demolition back in when was it, July, and I was on the front lines. I was in the media pass. The cops pushed everyone back. You had to have a pass to get there. I believe it was 1,000 feet. And I'll tell everybody, if there's a controlled demolition, there's no mistaking it. You get shaken, your teeth get rattled by every blast. You won't have one guy saying, oh, I heard a couple booms, and then the guy next to him saying, what, bombs? I didn't hear anything. No, you know something's going on, and that was a 10-story building. I couldn't imagine for a 110-story building, let alone two of them, let alone another 47-story building, another 22-story building. It's just unrealistic to say that that's controlled demolition. And what makes me laugh is when people see something like a little bit of red dripping from the tower and say, oh no, that's the thermite, that's it, that's what did it. They don't even stop to think, how can even thermite do the damage that was seen in there? So I'm sure you view it the same way too.
Well, essentially, yeah. I mean, after I was initially kind of tricked, I suppose, people often take apparent credentials and their impression of a person, if this person seems sincere or they seem to be doing the right thing, or, for example, they just disagree with the official story. If anyone who disagrees with the official story is kind of seen as a friend, because everyone else agrees with the official story and agrees with illegal invasions of countries and so forth. So if somebody comes out and says, oh yeah, I know the official story is false and it was bombs in the building, people who are skeptical of the official story are more inclined to agree with them. But then if you were to turn around to them at a later point and say, oh well, actually that's just another trick, and basically, they're going to say, well, why do you say that? They're not going to believe you because they don't want to think that they've been tricked. I mean, that essentially happened to me when I found out about this Stephen E. Jones character, that he'd actually falsely claimed that thermite was one of the destructive components used, to take down the towers. And then you've got people like Niels Harrit, who were running backup for him in 2008 and since then. He's a Danish chemist. I mean, heaven's sake, a chemist should know what thermite is and what thermite looks like when it reacts. Yet this Niels Harrit guy, I mean, it's very, very simple, really. People try to make it complicated, but if you just literally Google, thermite reaction, and either just look at some still images or, some short YouTube videos, you'll see basically in many of these videos 100 grams, 200 grams, 300 grams of thermite reacting, and typically in something like a flower pot. And it's an almost blinding glow. You can't really, you can just about look at it. So this, it's very, very simple. I can observe that. You can observe. You can look at it in a textbook, or, if you must go to Wikipedia, a site I loathe, but if you must go there, you can find out about it there and the different types of thermite. But yeah, a Danish chemist who allegedly teaches chemistry at a university, I think in Copenhagen, in Denmark, he says in a news broadcast that he thinks hundreds of tons, tons, let's just leave out the hundreds. I'm not sure if he said that. I don't want to misquote him. People are very fond of misquoting Dr. Wood and myself, but I'm not going to misquote them. So Niels Harrit says that tons of thermite were used. Well, you scale up this, let's say half a kilogram, which I think it's not even, it's probably going to be 100 grams or less. You do the numbers, and then look at the volume of light, the brilliance of light coming out, and scale that up to two towers. It just,
it doesn't make any sense. It's
correct. But at first, I was taken in by this. I freely admit that I was taken in by this for probably a period of well, probably at least a year, and maybe even up to 18 months before I was finally rid myself of this this idea of thermite. And it's still a big problem to this day that people who think they know, about 9/11 are posting stuff on Facebook about thermite or nukes or some combination thereof. And it doesn't stack up.
It seems like people are willing to accept the story if, say, it's somebody contrary to the official story. So you have like a Richard Gay speaking out against it, and he's saying, "No, I'm your friend. Come here. I've got the information you need. Trust me." We'll go into more about him later. I also wanted to mention too, if the evidence for thermite was so great, why wasn't it included in the original request for corrections that Stephen Jones, I believe, partly filed to NIST? You could find
Correct.
now you could find a link to a page that says thermite, but it literally one result of thermite. You would said, I believe in one of your talks, to go look for it, and I did it myself, and I can tell you right now that that's the case. So every time you hear them talk, it's, we have all this amazing evidence, this, that, and the other thing, and yet they didn't include any of it in their RFC. That's
correct.
That's
correct.
That's very odd. That's yeah. So, anyways, again, this kind of ties in before your first signs that you kind of noticed that there was a cover up, and how things had changed after you. This is further down the line, but after you and Judy Wood made the Dr. Wood made the connection for the energy. So we'll start with signs of the cover up first.
Yeah. So I think really. One of the things I think first made me rather curious was that I'd heard talk, because I was basically invited into this group which was called Scholars for 9/11 Truth, okay, so I missed out that part really, and I was invited by Jim Fetzer and Stephen E. Jones, and I was invited in as a full member of this group, and they basically had a kind of tiered membership. And it was allegedly those that were seen to be full members had to be something like a tenured professor or, have some kind of post like that. And I wasn't that. For some reason, they invited me as a full member, but I didn't. I was only a very lowly academic. So that was immediately suspicious. But to me, it wasn't that relevant because I thought we were a group of academics studying 9/11 and trying to get... So to me, it wasn't that relevant at that point. But later I realised why they did that.
For people listening to the original Scholars for 9/11 group, that was kind of the original group, right? The original 9/11 group.
Correct. Yeah. It preceded the Architects and Engineers group, and that the Architects and Engineers group was kind of started to come into being in 2007, which we'll probably go into a little bit later. But so I was in the Scholars for 9/11 Truth group. I've written about this in my free book, which is called 9/11 Finding the Truth. So you can Google 9/11 Finding the Truth and my name, and you'll find pages about that, and you can download the book for free, or you can get a paperback at cost price from Lulu,
audiobook
so
too.
forth.
Yeah,
audiobook.
That's what I listen to. It's
great,
pretty good.
Great.
And to let everybody know, it costs a lot to produce any type of audiobook, any type of book, and that Andrew and Dr. Wood aren't the type of people that are making tons of money off this. You just try it yourself. Think, okay, I want a 500 page book, 500 page book published. Okay, and then just look on the internet of steps to do that, and you'll start to see how expensive it is. So for somebody to do this like Andrew Johnson and put it out for free, just so that you have the information. I mean, yeah, you could maybe view that as, he's a psy-op, this, that, and the other thing, but it's not reality. The reality is he put hours and hours and hours of work into this, and he didn't even talk about that. I'm kind of just tooting his horn here. It takes a while, and for somebody to offer all that for free, not even covering their costs, that's something, and we thank you, Andrew, for that, because, yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I just sort of ought to mention at this point, specifically with the audiobook, that a lady called Cindy Laverty, who lives in New York, I think, or near there, and she volunteered to actually make the audiobook for me. And she did that all pretty much, she just said, do you mind if I do it? And I said, I'd love you to do it, And as you say, the amount of time she put into that, it's just unbelievable. And I have, she told me recently she disclosed something to me, and I just thought, well, how did you do it? Because it was like amazing what she did.
Yeah.
So I'd like to mention that. And I think we ended up with a couple of chapters not read. So a couple of the chapters like a bot voice, but by and large, it's I think you'll find it's very.
It's about the
listenable
information. It's about, and
exactly,
I know a lot of people want a pretty packaged thing, but hey, this is for free.
Right.
What do you expect? He didn't charge.
Yeah.
If you go to a normal studio, you're paying, like a cheap studio here is $30 an hour, but in an average studio, you're paying anywhere from $70 to $200 an hour. And to get somebody in for audiobook work, it's not feasible for some people. So again, thank you to Cindy.